I just don't know about this doggone team sometimes.
This is Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it's time for the Atlanta Baseball Party, only on Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Atlanta Baseball Party, your home for the best Atlanta Braves baseball talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Jarvis Davis and Grant McAuley. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase Locked On MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. The Atlanta Baseball Party is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, the Braves did not do right by Big Boy and Dre Tuesday night. We'll talk about that, and we'll download with Grant McAuley a little bit later. But first, let's be real about who these Braves are or aren't. The Atlanta Braves haven't been shut out, Jarvis, in back-to-back games since 2021. After falling 7-0 in the series finale versus the Marlins Sunday, the Braves followed that up by getting smoked in the series opener against the Milwaukee Brewers Tuesday with a 10-0 loss. What is going on with this Braves squad, you think?
This team is so unpredictable, T, because when you think about 24 innings to take it back to Saturday since the last time they scored a run in the game, actual game against the worst team in the league that's in their division that's trying to get bad, right? They just offloaded all the players that that they had that were worth a flip. So right, you know what I'm saying? So when you think about it from that standpoint, it's starting like that, and then you take it back to when they had a 9-game home run streak, and Matt Olson was starting to get hot, and then Austin Riley, he's still coming around, and then of course Mr. Consistency himself is Marcel Ozuna. He's just been a steady, steady trail that's been going along throughout this entire season. It's just it's hard to just put a pulse on this team, and it just. And that's the unfortunate part, because when you talk about 182 games, about 70 games left in the season, and you start thinking about where this team can go and how this team can move forward, like you have to be almost a prophet in order to figure out where this team is going, because a lot of times baseball is real big on numbers. We talk about it all the time on this show, and when you look at the numbers, they're one of the worst teams with runners in scoring position. And when you look at their big issue, they just can't score runs. And this is the product of that consistency that they've been showing us, that they aren't good when guys are in runners in scoring position or when guys are on base at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said. I think the word that you used was the best word to describe it, and it's unpredictable. I mean, we really don't know which Braves team is going to show up at the plate. Now, we know what we're going to get on the mound for the most part, although last night, I don't know what we got. But for the most part, we know what we're going to get when we tune in to see the Braves on the mound, and pretty much defensively, they're solid. But past that, it's just up and down. It's like, and then last night, unfortunately, the one place where you do typically get consistency from the Braves, or you get solid performances, you just didn't get that last night. I mean, it was a very tough first inning for Bryce Elder, and it was tough because, hey, you just saw him perform against the same lineup, a stellar outing a week ago. Last night,
you were just talking about how consistent he looked and how the pacing and everything, how he looked calm and cool, collected on the mound. I'm just like, man, what is going on? Who is this guy?
Who is this guy? And bring the guy who was in Milwaukee, bring that guy back, because that guy was the Bryce Elder that reminded you of the Bryce Elder you saw for the first half last season, whereas last night, the Bryce Elder that you saw was the Bryce Elder that you've seen, unfortunately, for the back half of last season, and also the Bryce Elder who you literally saw a little bit, or you've seen for the most part the first half of this season. I mean, last week, literally the 7th inning, he allowed a single run, 5 hits, and 6 and the 3rd innings, so almost going 7 innings last week. And this week we're talking 7, Jarvis, but we're just talking 7 runs. So when you get that from the starting pitcher, knowing what you can't get out of these Braves, from the hitting perspective, the Brewers didn't score in 6 of 9 innings. You don't score at all. You can't even string together multiple hits in a single frame the entire game. It's just not a recipe for success. It's a recipe for the disaster that we saw last night. And it really does make you concerned because, I'll take it back to the mantra that it was a strong conversation and a strong statement, but it was consistent. And that was take it back to March, Jarvis. What did we hear? World Series or bust. And the
Yep.
whole lineup, the entirety of the Braves clubhouse got behind it. And the rest of Braves country was like, bet, why wouldn't we? There's every reason and every opportunity to think that we could be that team. But given what you've seen out of the Braves and what they've shown you this year, going back to your word, as far as consistency versus inconsistency, and you're looking at a swoon, if you will, where now they've lost 3 straight after they went, what, 1, 2, 3, 6 out of 7. I mean, are we still able to talk World Series or bust here?
Ooh, man, that's a great question. And you know me, T. I try to be the well, not try to be. I'm a big fan of the Braves, right? Like I grew up watching this team and just and being and just in enjoying the ride sometimes, and sometimes I'm just a frustrating ride. And I've seen it seemed like it's been more frustrating than enjoying, right? Because 2021 World Series, in the 95 World Series, I was, a child growing up and watching those teams. It's just super frustrating to watch this team. But, looking at some of the what the Braves have coming up, obviously they have a couple of games left against the Brewers, but
Mhm.
I'm seeing some light, T. I'm seeing some light. They have a
Okay.
10-game roadie, right? They have a 10-game roadie against the Angels. Also the oh my
Rocky.
gosh. Yeah, the
Rocky.
Rockies and also the Giants. Those teams are at the bottom of their divisions, right? Like they are not contenders at all. And then when you look at flip it over to the other team that they're chasing, the Philadelphia Phillies, they got the Dodgers and the Mariners. Those are teams that obviously are competing for World Series. So when you think about that 10-game stretch, if the Braves are able to get 5 or 6 of those games, 6 or 7 of those games, you're talking about potentially going up against the Phillies with
Mhm.
a really good chance of really knocking down that 6.5 game lead that they have in the division. So when you talk about being able to compete for the division and still having the opportunity for that, I still have to say that they are contenders, right? Because I can't, if they were losing their way and it was a heavy road coming up after these last couple of games, not being able to score any runs, I'll look at it a little differently. But being that they have this 10-game roadie with some teams they should be able to beat,
Mhm.
and the team that they're chasing in the Phillies are actually going up against some pretty tough teams. I really feel like there's a real chance that they can stay in that contender conversation.
Yeah, and granted, with the Philadelphia Phillies, they had their own swoon, right? They
Yep.
lost 6 straight, and then they lost 7 of 8 before they actually beat the Dodgers. So, we'll see. But they dropped the first game in that series, so that does give some encouragement. And somehow, some way, I guess because of that swoon with the Phillies, the Braves have been able to stay just 6.5 games back of the division. Why that is a big deal, maybe not to say that we believe they're necessarily going to mow down the Phillies, but it just keeps them in the top position to be able to host a wild card series, and that gets you there. I think for me, I'm a little bit more conservative with it. I definitely think that they are a team that has a legitimate chance to contend for the postseason and maybe even shock us and go deep in the postseason. But I'm not sure that I believe they're a team as currently performing, not even just currently constructed, but as currently performing, that's going to find a way to overcome the likes of these Philadelphia Phillies, but also kind of overcome a team in, as you mentioned, the Dodgers, who did some work at the deadline to put themselves in a good position. And if the Milwaukee Brewers
Definitely.
that they're facing now actually show up for the rest of the season and they're that team, I'm not sure if I kind of can go with contenders. But like you said, nice little West Coast trip coming up. You got 10 games to help you to reset. Not that you want to overlook the Brewers, but you
No.
mentioned you could give an opportunity there to be able to gain some ground by virtue of the fact that you are playing teams that could potentially be in a space where if they're tiebreakers, tiebreaker goes to you, and then also you give yourself momentum as you get ready to come back home and take on the Philadelphia Phillies and the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, I think that the Braves have an opportunity in front of them, even though that they just look awful in these past couple of games or 24 innings that they haven't scored a run. So when you think about it from that standpoint, I have to find light. Also with Chris Sale coming to the mound, that gives me lights, that gives me hope because he's been an absolute monster on the mound this year. So yeah, the Braves are set up to be able to take advantage of the games that they have in front of them, because Lord knows once that the Phillies come around in probably about a couple weeks or so, that's going to be huge because like you said, it's only 70 games left. So this is going to be make or break, and we'll be able to say for sure that hey, the Braves aren't contenders or they aren't contenders. And and to be honest with you, at this time of year, like I have no issue saying either way.
Yeah, well, they've got a 4-man booth with Chipper Jones, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, and Jeff Francoeur on the TV broadcast tonight. So maybe they can sprinkle some of that Braves greatness, kind of sprinkle some of that down to the players who actually hit the field tonight. When we come back, we'll download with Grant McAuley and Going Deep. This episode of the Atlanta Baseball Party is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now, of course, Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's also the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Get this. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on Prize Picks. Last week of the Olympics, you could turn $10 into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up more golds this summer. Of course, we've got basketball, soccer, and you can do that in as little as 60 seconds. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks.
I want to start by saying thank you for making the Atlanta Baseball Party your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you download your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Grant, I kind of want to start with, with Reynaldo, not Ronaldo Lopez, but Max Fried, because, I know hindsight's 2020. He had the bad start, early on on Sunday against the Miami Marlins. But do you think he could have benefited from a rehab starting Gwinnett?
No, I don't really think it was necessary. I mean, it just kind of delayed what they felt like was a guy that really just needed some rest. That couple of weeks to let that calm down. That neuritis was what they called it. And he said it wasn't a major nerve issue, just kind of one of the, I guess ancillary might be the right word for it, nerves that he was dealing with. And I talked to Max before he came off the injured list, and he said, yeah, everything is good. I feel good. And when he got out of that start, he said, look, the 5 walks were unacceptable. I felt great. I just I wasn't able to locate, didn't have that command. And, it's just, if the Braves, could figure out a way to solve the injury riddle that they've been hit with this year, that would certainly be helpful. Max Fried, though, not being down for long was something that I think helped out in terms of the trade deadline and what the Braves may have been shopping for if they were fearful that they'd be without Max Fried for a longer amount of time. You mentioned Reynaldo Lopez, though, through Freudian slip, but these guys are attached at the hip. If you look at They're both
Sure.
all-stars. They both pitched in that game, and then they both ended up on the injured list as the Braves placed him, Reynaldo, that being him, a little bit earlier this week. But yeah, they're going to have to figure out a way. The pitching's been the strength. It hasn't looked that great the last few days, albeit, but the offense has got to sort some stuff out. But Max Fried, I don't think he needed the rehab start. I think they just needed to get him back in there. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to command it the way that we expect him to.
Yeah, honestly, I think long term, I feel like Max Fried will be okay. I mean, that's just the optimist in me. When you think about it from that standpoint, I just think sometimes, when he goes in, what, three in the third, pitch three in the third innings, and he gets pulled out and just has a horrible inning, awful inning. The control wasn't there as well, and the velocity was down just a little bit on his fastball. It just kind of makes me kind of wonder, okay, maybe he could have benefited from it, but I feel like, this he's in a space where he's that veteran, and I feel like he'll get back on track pretty soon. But speaking of Ronaldo Lopez, now I got the news that he moved to IL on Monday, but it seems like we kind of have a little bit of inkling of positive news saying that this was more so precautionary than concern.
Yeah, I think it was just time for maybe a rest and a recharge for Reynaldo. When they got the clean MRI, obviously that makes you feel a lot better about what the situation was. And they knew that before the trade deadline. So really, they had some positive news on both Fried and Lopez. And it amounts to a lot of inconvenience for the Braves right now. I mean, neither of these guys can score runs for Atlanta, and neither of them have pitched as well as maybe they would have liked to their last time out. But they're pivotal parts, or integral parts of what the Braves are looking to accomplish moving forward. You need a healthy Max Fried and a healthy Reynaldo Lopez back out there. And I think that as Ronaldo passed that 100 inning mark for the first time since 2019,
Yep.
that's one of those times where you maybe take an inventory of, all right, we want this guy to continue to throw meaningful innings for us. Maybe discretion is the better part of valor, and we take a little bit of time and let him reset here for a couple of 3 weeks and then roll him back out and get him back in that rotation. And maybe that rest is all he needs to kind of get over. Look, pitchers deal with some dead arm feeling throughout the course of the year. Nobody feels 100% healthy again. Once you get in and start throwing, it really just, from day one on, you're going to be dealing with little things. And there's a difference in being hurt and being injured. There's a difference in being sore and being hurt, for that matter. And I think that the Braves have kind of fallen more on that scale than having to worry about serious injury with these guys. But it's a relief to know that at least they got the positive medical test results, and they can look to get these guys back out there. But again, as well as the Braves pitching staff has done this year, the onus is still on the other side of the ball for the Braves if they want to do the winning that they very much would like to down the stretch, and of course in October.
And with Ronaldo Lopez being out and Max Fried trying to make sure he get his footing back together, like who is a guy that you think could like fill that role where maybe like a sixth guy, or to be able to continue to give these guys the rest that they need down the stretch? Do you feel like that's Grant Holmes, that type of guy?
Yeah, Grant Holmes has pitched his way into that plan, and I think that that's one way to go about it. I'm sure that the Braves were hoping to get more out of Bryce Elder than they've gotten, but it's been this Jekyll and
Sure.
Hyde act where, and sometimes it's difficult for a starter to make back-to-back appearances against the same team. You can pitch great one time and then get, knocked around the next time, and that's exactly what happened to him against Milwaukee. But putting that aside, Grant Holmes has pushed his way into that mix, and both Ian Anderson and AJ Smith-Shawver are at AAA Gwinnett. I think those are guys that you could look at that have been able to elevate their pitch counts. I know they're trying to give Anderson all the time he needs before they bring him up to the big leagues. They're not looking to rush him, but he's progressed along. He's had pretty good numbers at AAA, but as we know, the minor leagues are not the big leagues. So you just want to give him as much as lead up time as possible, I think, before you bring him up, because you hate to send him down, bring him back up, send him down. I mean, I know that that's the optics of it sometimes, but with a guy like Ian Anderson on the long road back from Tommy John, and having been the part of the Braves rotation that he was in 2020 and 2021 before kind of struggling in 2022, this is still a guy that, could have some value down the stretch for the Braves. I don't think that they're planning on all that and putting a lot of expectation on that, but it certainly would be a nice surprise.
You know what? Speaking of expectation, Michael Harris got his rehab assignment off to a good start with a leadoff single for the Gwinnett Stripers. Once Harris is back, like what are some like the realistic expectations? Are we thinking top of the lineup, or do you think Snick kind of slides him to kind of ease him into the role of just getting back in the major leagues?
I think it's more about just kind of finding a spot for him to help out, because the Braves, the top of the order, I know Jorge Soler hasn't lit the world on fire yet in the very small sample size that he's had back in a Braves uniform, but the capability is certainly there. And I think that Soler is the fit that they needed at the top of the order. He was getting on base at a very good clip, especially in the leadoff spot, and really over the last couple of months that he was with San Francisco. Get him back at the top of the order, or keep him at the top of the order, let him get going. Austin Riley swinging the bat well. We know what Marcel Ozuna has done this year. Matt Olson's showing some signs. So maybe as you get into that 5, 6, 7 mix, see what a healthy Michael Harris might be able to do there. He's hit a good amount in that middle part of the order. And it is really, I've gone through this on my show on 92.9 The Game from the Diamond. You can get it wherever you find your podcast. The 6 through 9 spots in the order, so the bottom 4 spots of the order, have been a black hole for the Braves. They need somebody to come in. And it's no surprise that without Ronald Acuna Jr., without Michael Harris, and without Ozzy Albies, and missing large chunks of time with Sean Murphy as well, and Austin Riley was out for a few weeks, this club just hasn't been able to, assemble the Avengers or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. It would be nice to get Michael Harris back in there, and we all know what he did a year ago. Slow start, injury, really couldn't get himself going, and then he caught absolute fire the final 3 months. Braves could use that over the final 6 or 7 weeks of the season, that's for sure.
For sure. And one of the things you mentioned, Marcel Ozuna, like we haven't had to be concerned about his production, right? Like I don't think that we can mention that enough. I know we talked about it a lot, but he currently leads the National League in RBIs, and he's second behind Shohei Ohtani in the National League in home runs. With 70 games to go, does Ozone have a shot at that triple crown, G?
It's possible. It hasn't happened in the National League in a very, very long time. But Ozuna,
neither one of us were born combined.
No, we're not. I go back a long ways in baseball, and I like things from yesteryear, obviously. But yeah, it would be an incredible accomplishment for him. I'm not sure that he's able to get there for the Ohtani factor in the home run department. That's going to be a tough one. We've been knocking in runs for the Braves. I think that's the stat that you really circle this year and say, where would the Braves be without this run producer in their lineup? And clearly he's shown that last year, that last 5 months was no fluke. He's picked up right where he left off, and he's making a case. But I talked about this on social media as well. Even if he wins the Triple Crown, there is a very real possibility that he is a very distant second in MVP voting behind Shohei Ohtani, who has already 30-30 this year, leading the National League in homers, has elevated his game on the offensive side to yet another level. Clearly, he's an MVP caliber hitter. He's already shown that before. And even without pitching and even serving as a DH, I think that Ohtani has been the best player in baseball in 2024. I find it very hard to believe that he's not going to win the MVP award. And that's with all due respect to what Aaron Judge is once again doing, because you can't talk about Shohei Ohtani without talking about Aaron Judge, even though they're in different leagues.
Absolutely, man. When you think about what those guys bring to the table, on a nightly basis, man, it's just amazing to watch, because for you to sit up there and say Shohei Ohtani has taken his game to another level when he used to pitch and be a hitter last year, a power hitter last year, it's just, it's crazy. It's amazing, man. It's so crazy. It's unbelievable to be able to watch that in real time, because we know Babe Ruth. Oh yeah, we heard good things.
Yeah,
but we saw clips.
You're watching history. And that's, right, I think, exactly one of the things that has to excite baseball fans, whether you're a Dodgers fan or whether you're an Angels fan or not. If you're a fan of baseball and you understand the history of the game and how hard this game is and how difficult it is to be great at one or the other, now imagine somebody doing the things that he's done. I know he's got to get back on the mound and kind of, quote unquote, prove himself again, but he's done things that really nobody has done since Babe Ruth, and at a level in which, all due respect to, what was going on in baseball 100 years ago, Shohei Ohtani is doing it at a level in which I don't think any of us had ever imagined was possible.
He is Grant McAuley. He is the co-host of the Locked On Braves postcast, and he makes an appearance on the Locked On Braves podcast as well. Make sure you guys check him out there from the Diamond on his podcast. It's free and available wherever you download your podcast. Make sure you check that out as well. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're not done yet. The stretch is next.
Brought to you by Liquid IV. When you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's popsicle firecracker flavor. A surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powered hydration brand in America, because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. And I got to tell you, it works beyond even summer and beyond even baseball season. Had an opportunity to check out Liquid IV for the first time last November during homecoming in New Orleans. Yes, in November, it is still 85, 90 degrees, and something like Liquid IV is sure to be a hit again this season. because you kind of need it for situations like that. So definitely check out Liquid IV because it's something that is not just hydration, but it's healthy hydration. So no more thirsty summers, or in our case, even no more thirsty falls when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. And you can get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. That's liquidiv.com that you can take to America's pastime and check out the popsicle firecracker flavor because it's fire. So, Jarvis, it wasn't the best of days for Outcast bobblehead night as far as how the Braves game, how the outcome was, but 15,000 lucky Braves fans still got a chance to take home the Outcast bobblehead, which I still don't have because, of course, I wasn't here last night and then I missed it last year as well. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, okay, what does this got to do to get a darn bobblehead here? I don't know.
Yeah, to be honest with you, see, like for me, you know how big of an Outcast fan I am, and when I saw Big Boy on the broadcast like last night, it was kind of like, man, I had like a little back channel way that I tried to get one last year, and it didn't quite work out like I thought it was. You know, somebody told me that, hey, man, we'll get you one. You know, I ain't gonna say his name, but you know, hey, I gave you a little hint about maybe who it might be. So, but yeah, it's one. I want to try to figure out how we can get one. You know, I feel like Locked On Sports Atlanta has done a lot of good work in this city, and we deserve one. So if you have one, go and send them our way. You know, ATLday1s at gmail.com. Yeah, we still up. RIP. You know what I'm saying? We still there. Send us a note. You know, and how we can get one. And I ain't paying $500 for it. Let me tell you that. I don't want one that bad. But thank you in
The black
advance for
for the
sending us some.
bobblehead.
We need two, y'all. I know y'all can do it. I know y'all Locked On Sports Atlanta family. I know y'all can do it. Come on now. Let's go. Let's get it done.
Yeah, I tell you, the black market on these bobbleheads is unbelievable.
Why gotta be the black market, T?
I don't know. I'm just gonna not. I don't know. It could be something else, but the black market. That's what we're
Yeah,
calling.
that's what it is. That's what it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what they call it, whoever they are. But yeah, I thought it was too cool to see Big Boy on the broadcast as well, because we know that there have been so many comments, good comments, by the way, about the cool broadcasting, the different way of commentating that Snoop Dogg has brought to the Olympics. So I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of a cool deal for Big Boy to be on the broadcast last night, too.
Absolutely. It was so cool to just sit here and watch there. And it was so funny because when he walked in, you know, to the booth, he was like, hey, that's Tom Glavine. How you doing, Mr. Glavine? I was like, wow, that's reverence right there. When you talk about I'm Big Boy,
Right.
multi-platinum selling artist, you have sold out baseball stadiums, arenas, whatever you want to
And we're
call it,
waiting to come back.
the best rap group duo of all time. Yes, I'm going to say that. They are the GOATs, right? You know, and for him to just walk in there and just say, hey, Mr. Glavin, how you doing? You know, it just goes to show you like that he's a real fan. He's a true fan of the team. And for him to be sitting there and kind of went into a little play-by-play right there
Yes.
in the end with Bryce able to get out of there. So yeah, it was kind of cool to kind of see him sit down there and be in that element because we used to see him Big Boy in different ways, right? But for him to kind of sit down and have a Rico Wade's son out there on the mound with him, and I thought that was just really cool to kind of mention him and as a because they know, Lord knows, like Rico Wade was a big. For those who don't know, he's a producer for Outkast and the Dungeon Family, and for him to be able to make sure he lifts him up as well.
Yeah.
I feel like that it was just cool all the way around.
Most definitely. And another cool thing, Bristol Motor Speedway will play host to a 2025 MLB regular season game featuring the Braves and the Cincinnati Reds, according to The Athletic. Rob Manfred, of course, MLB Commissioner, Speedway Motorsports CEO Marcus Smith are set to make the announcement official this Friday at the racetrack. And this is actually, I think, really cool because honestly, when you think about baseball and trying to bring it to a different audience. When you think about racing and you think about bringing NASCAR to a different audience, I think that is so cool. And also, Bristol has the capacity to seat 150,000 fans. I think that's pretty cool. Back in 2016, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, they played a college football game there. And
Mhm.
again, I just think it's nice to actually bring that to a different space like the Speedway.
Yeah, that this is interesting because we talk
Yeah,
about. I feel like especially the piece about intersecting different, audiences and trying to pick up some on both sides, right? So, and I think that there may be a little crossover between Major League Baseball
sure.
and NASCAR. Just
Yeah,
just kicking it around. There may be
a little.
possibility there, but this is really cool because when you see I'm interested to see can the doggone Braves sell that bad boy out because we
Yeah,
understand the fandom that comes with the Atlanta Braves. Like I'm talking about an entire region, not necessarily a
we
state, but a
know.
region of fans that they kind of will follow and go wherever their team is playing. And I feel like this is a smart decision to be able to put this game on display potentially in front of a different audience who may not necessarily want to go to Truist Park. They want to make that trip to go see this team in an arena like this. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. I'm just hoping and praying that the umpires don't try to take over the show when they do play. Because you know how the umpires get. They like a little attention to you. So
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
they don't come around like they normally do. But yeah, and this team will be on display and people will get a chance to see them that might not normally get a chance to see them at the park because Lord knows, how special that junkie is going
yeah.
on.
And it's right, and it's also a beast. Now, and granted, if you're coming from most parts of Tennessee, you would be technically coming against traffic to see
Right,
the Braves. But
right,
I want to go back to what you said about the regional appeal of this team. The
right.
reason that the Braves are my favorite team is because, or one of my favorite teams, but we will not debate that right now.
Yes,
No,
don't do that. Don't mention
debate
them.
it. We're just going to stick to the Braves in this conversation for this
Yes.
commentary because I love the fact that they have that regional appeal because we never had, and still in New Orleans Metro or Louisiana, period, we do not have a Major League Baseball team. Mississippi, of course, has the minor league teams there, and then Alabama
Mhm.
doesn't have minor leagues, major leagues, and New Orleans does have a minor league team as well. But when you start putting all those pieces together, even Tennessee going across to Memphis with I think a AAA team, and then coming over to Nashville, you hit it. Arkansas regional, all of it regional. Like no
Mhm.
one has a Major League Baseball team except the Braves, and so we root for them. Even North Florida still doesn't have a Major League Baseball team. So I think that this has some appeal. South Carolina, North Carolina, you don't have one either. So everybody pull up
Mhm.
and make this fun. And I think that's where, like you said, there is a cross section of fandom between NASCAR fans and baseball fans, but there's also a regional pocket there that could really take advantage of this, and it could be exciting.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
And I might be able to round up the Davis family too. We might take a trip up there. You never know. Or not. I might just watch it on TV, and I think it'll be a joy to watch to kind of see how that region comes together because
yeah.
Lord knows, like the Braves, they're big fans. Like I got that, our former colleague Andy Bunker worked at
Mm-hmm.
929 The Game. He used to watch the Braves on the
Yes,
West Coast when he got
yes,
home. So yeah, when
yes,
you think about it from that standpoint, it's like, hey, yeah, let's see how many people we can get to come in one stadium and talking about 100,000 people. Oh
yeah.
gosh, let's
Crazy.
let's let's see, let's pack this bad boy out.
Let's back it out. Yeah, I could definitely see it. I think it's such a cool thing. We appreciate you guys, our everydayers who are also pretty darn cool, for making the Atlanta baseball party your first listen of the day. Be sure to also stop by Locked On Braves for your second listen, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're free and available wherever you download your podcast. We'll see you on the Atlanta Sports Party Thursday.